I have removed the cam cover. I am ready to do my valve specs. Although I don't see the valves, you check a gap between the cam lobe and a push plate underneath, which is an upside down bucket. To do this, there's your upside down bucket. It's kind of hard to see because I haven't taken it apart, but it's down there below this cam. This is the cam lobe, and that's the entire cam profile and cam mechanism. Same idea everywhere. So to get started, what you need is you need your valve specs. You also need a feeler gauge like this one, and it opens into leaves. It's very oily. I want to touch it last, okay, so I can do this shot with clean hands. To remove this cam cover, that was first. Here is cam cover, and there, that's how it looks like. Fairly lightweight. It just has some vacuum hoses on it that were disconnected earlier, and I took out the spark plugs because it's easier to position the cams that way because there's less compression in the engine. So 6 bolts come out. 2, 4, 6. Those ones come out, and then this one, just that's how it looks like on the inside. Don't lose these little gaskets also, okay? So it's also part of the deal there. When you remove the cam cover, you've got this seal here that's the profile of the seal, okay? And here there's no silicone on it, but there is some silicone around there where there's this deeper part to it. So if I lift it, the silicone kind of starts there. I don't have silicone, I don't want to take it off, so that's the idea, okay? Just put it in place. That's how it looks like. It was dirt covered for its outer half. You can see there's a rib on the middle, so it was covered halfway through with dirt. From the edge to the rib, it's keeping the dirt out very successfully. But I took good care to wipe it away, just like so, with an oily rag, because I don't want the abrasive dirt particles. Sand is very abrasive, as in sandpaper. Okay, I don't want any of them inside the engine. Everything here is extremely finely machined to a mirror polish. I don't want any dirt particles in it. A lot of dirt could get into it from this plastic tray here, because I don't know if you can see it. Not really. Well, this is the top of the radiator, and you can see the light through, and it was full of stones and pebbles of all kinds and all sizes, all of these and everything. So all of that had to be kept clean. That's why I have this cute little screwdriver inserted in here in such a position so as to enlarge the gap, so all the dirt and little stones can run out and down where the exhausts are. The exhaust, there you can see exhaust components there, exhaust pipe and exhaust bolts there, and the little stones can drop out there and be gone. Okay, what else did I do? So this one's in place, and I also removed the clutch cable. I'm going to put it back together. I'll show you how it's done in the next video. So the cam cover is good to go for cleanup. Spark plugs have been removed. Yes, here is everything. That's how the old spark plugs look like. They are pretty dirty, and this is my first valve check. Service as needed, adjust as needed service. And so I have 12,000 kilometers on the bike, That's how the plugs look like, ready to be changed. And I have these cam cover bolts. Alright, you see there is about 9 or so full turns of thread on these cam cover bolts. Let's see if I can focus on it. Not really successfully, it's kind of small. Maybe if I put my finger next to it. That way, not really. Well, anyhow, you have about 9 turns or so to go, and they don't need a whole lot of torque. All you need to do is compress that rubber seal a bit to keep the oil inside the head. Just compress it lightly, very little torque, okay? And if you rotated 9 times fully, you're bottoming out, okay? Don't force it. I have broken cam cover bolts before. No fun whatsoever. No fun. Don't do it. Don't break them, okay? Don't over tighten them. If you just compress the seal lightly, you're good. Same on this head gasket, which is meant to be reusable. Just compress it lightly with those bolts as you suck them in, and you're home. Why am I doing this service on my own, alone? Excellent question. I'm glad you asked that. What happened before is that in these cam holder assembly here that's bolted down with these black bolts, some apprentice, not on this bike, on some previous bikes like my V-Strom, it happened on my V-Strom, some apprentice ripped out the thread from some of these holes there, and at a brand name dealership, okay, I ended up paying for it, for helicoiling these pieces, being sent to a machine shop and helicoiling it, and it was also no fun. Okay, that's why I'm not giving it to any incompetent apprentice, okay, in any kind of dealership. Sorry fellas, yeah, experiment elsewhere. I do my own work, okay? And yeah, you learn on your own bike at your own cost, and you're not stripping my threads out. On the other side, you need one more thing. You need to rotate the cam shafts somehow, and you rotate it by rotating the crankshaft, which is an extremely good design. No body panel, no need to reposition the body panels. These cute little plugs come out with a screwdriver, hopefully, and you need to insert a torque 50. There you have T50 wrench, just like so. That would be Torx 50. And I don't know if we have enough light for this. If we don't, let me just reach for my flashlight. There we go, there we go. There is the, there is the, there, Torx 50. And through this hole you can see a gear, a big gear at the foreground there. A big gear at the foreground, and there's a rotating plate behind it, yeah, that you cannot really see because I'm not rotating anything. But that rotating plate behind those gear teeth that you see at the foreground, that would mark the top dead center position, but you don't need it, and I'll show you why. Because it's really hard to see. Let me just make sure this one is on. There. Good, I just moved the cams a little bit. Okay, I'll show you what I do here. Okay. So, the measurement will take place between the cam and the bucket underneath with the feeler gauge. I'm going to put you on this perch here, and have a look-see. Yep, that's about as good as it gets. Alright. The feeler gauge, I'm going to get you the valve specs numbers in just a jiffy, but this is how it goes. I have, let me see, that's intake, so that's 5, 6, and 7. So I'm going to choose out of these leaves 5, 6, and 7. So and also 8. 5, 6, 7 is my specs, and 8 is over. So first I'm gonna 5, 6, and 7 are acceptable. These are thousandths of an inch. I know it's a metric bike. I'll show you everything in a jiffy. And this is 8,000th of an inch. That would be too thick, and that would mean that the shims need to be adjusted. So let's see if the 8,000th feeler gauge fits in, and you just try to insert it, and alas, it does not go in. So the gap is thinner than 8,000th of an inch. Next one is 7,000th of an inch. Let's see. Well, that runs in. That's in, and in so much so that it comes out on the other side. There, you can see it runs clear through, while the 8,000th did not go in. Alright, I don't want to get my hand oily. So the name of the game is find the thickest one that fits through the gap. Okay, so that's one of them. You have, just a sec, you have 4 cylinders. Cylinders 1, 2, 3, 4 intake ports. But you have 16 valves. This is your intake shaft. That's your intake side. That's your exhaust side and your intake camshaft. So you have your intake specs that's applicable to this row of things. The first 2 are there. First 2 cams. The second 2 are there for cylinder 2. This is not the ignition sequencing. I'm just numbering them: cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, and cylinder 4. Okay, from left to right. And the same for the exhaust, but it's really hard to get the camera in there, such a tight space. Okay, get back on the tripod. There. So the name of the game is find the thickest feeler gauge or gauge, find the thickest piece of metal that you can jam into that gap there. The 8,000th was too thick, 7,000th was good. Just in case you didn't catch that, let me just see another one. Let me see. That's 8, 9, okay. Let's see this one next to it. 8,000 doesn't want to go in. Let's see the 7,000. I'll explain the numbers in a sec. 7,000 just doesn't want to go in. Does not want to go in. Next one is 6,000. Oops, I flipped it away. Okay, that's my 4. That's the 5. Yeah, that one, 6,000. There, that runs in. Wunderschön. That's in, alright? I'll show you the numbers. We'll do a little geometry here. The specs are those numbers. For the intake side, you have black numbers, metric millimeters, 0.13 to 0.19 millimeters. Exhaust, 0.24 to 0.31 millimeters, metric. But on a metric feeler gauge, where is it? I don't know where my metric feeler gauge is. You only have, because I ended up using the Imperial one. Sorry, a little disorganized. Just a sec. Might be able to show you. Found it. Okay, I just dropped. There, here's my metric. Look at the numbers. Metric. So 0.7. Just wait for the camera to focus. 0.067. 0.10. We don't have a 13 and we don't have a 19. 0.10, and the next one is Just a sec, it's here. It did not go away. There, those are the numbers. 0.10, 0.15, 0.20 millimeters. There's nothing wrong with those numbers, but I only have one shim that I can use. This one, sorry, this one, the 0.15, because 0.15 is between 0.13 and 0.19. So this is nice, but it don't work as well as this one, because 0.13 millimeters is 5,000th of an inch, or 0.005, 5,000th of an inch, and that number is 1900th of a millimeter is 7,000th of an inch. And on this feeler gauge set I have a 5,000, a 6,000 and a 7,000, so I have finer increments to measure. Alright, that's why I chose the inch based. Same for the exhaust. Between 24 and 31 I only have 25 and 30. That's two pieces of shims to measure with. Yeah, I have either 25 or 30 on this set. It's a very commonly available set. That's only two shims. I want a little more choice than that. I do have a 9th thou, a 10th thou, 11th thou, and a 12th thou. So I have a 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 4 pieces instead of 2 to work with. That's why I've chosen to work with increments of inches. On this set you can see it's calibrated both in inches. Just wait for the camera to focus. Okay, there we go, I got the focus back. Sorry guys. You can see on this one it says 18,000th of an inch. That's not 0.18. In inches, only the digits after the decimal dot are written down. So that's dot or 0.018, and there it is underneath. It's in millimeters. So there is my 3, 4, 5. There's my 5. You can barely read it what its metric equivalent is, because some of them are worn more than others. There's my 6th thou, which reads 162, I think, or 52. Sorry, 152. So 5, 6. There's my 7. It reads 0.178 underneath in millimeters, but it's so faint. 178. Okay, but you get the idea. Whether you measure in metric or millimeters, it shouldn't make a difference, but I wanted finer increments. This is what my measurements are. Cylinders 1, 2, 3 and 4. 2 measurements for every cylinder for the intake, and 2 measurements for every cylinder for the exhaust. I started with the intake. Everything is in thousandths of an inch. Instead of decimals I went fractions. Same thing, okay? So I measured 6,000 of an inch gap on that one there, and on the next one I measured 5,000th of an inch. You get the idea. Those are my measurements. 5, 6, 6, 7. Everything is within specs. 5, 7, 7, 6, and the same for the exhaust. 11, 10, whatever. You can see I have to be within 9 and 12. Everything is between 9 and 12. There, those are my numbers. So, lastly, cam profile. And why does top dead center? I'm not saying it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with setting it on top dead center, spot on. Good for you, bro. Seriously, nothing wrong with it. I'm just telling you that there's an alternative to it that requires a little less work and a little less worrying, and it doesn't need your manual. Look at the cam profiles. I'm going to take you off the camera stand. Look at the shape of a cam. You can see that it's like an egg shape. It's kind of smooth. It's got a big radius around here, and then it's extending in one direction, and it's got a little bit of a radius up top there. Okay, so let's just get you back on the tripod, and this is what I have to say about the cam profile. Why top dead center is nice, but it's not necessarily not necessarily strictly applicable. Okay, let me explain. So here's your cam profile. On the cam profile you have a constant radius for most of the turn. Say about 220 degrees, question mark, because I don't have that degree, but for most of the turn you have a constant radius. Whatever the radius, there, it's the same radius, there, 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 there. Okay, you get the idea. From then on the cam lobe starts forming and the metal extends in one direction, and then you have a smaller rounded over part that also has its own radius, and it's got a constant radius there as well, and it's got an included angle there as well as there on the other side. So to measure valve gap between the cam lobe and the bucket underneath it, you have to have the cam adjusted in a way that it's not pushing down on the bucket is here. If the bucket is here on the bottom and the cam lobe is pointing that way, you can measure already. If it's this way, you can measure it, and the gap is not gonna change. Whatever shim you choose, it's not gonna affect the size of your gap. Okay, if the cam is in this direction and the shim is here, this will be top dead center. When the cam lobe is sticking vertically up, your gap is not gonna be affected which way the cam lobe is exactly pointing by most of its turn, most of it. Okay, if you are confident about experimenting and worrying about the sequencing of it, you can do this freehand and just eyeball it, and that's due to the cam profile. It's a very meticulously made mathematical shape. You can check into it how cam machining is done. It's really fascinating. It doesn't hurt you, bro, to do a little geometry. Okay, so that's why, even though this one here, this cam here, is not entirely sticking vertically up, I measured the gap underneath, because it's in a position that is not gonna change the amount of gappage underneath. Alright, I hope that makes sense. Now lastly, the measurement at the front is really tricky. I will try to position the camera somewhere here and see what happens if I try to measure here, there. I'll just show you some of the misery here, how this one works. Let me just get my feeler gauges for the exhaust. That's an exhaust valve, and I need to be within 9,000 and 12,000th of an inch. So I start with the 12,000, and this one here, let me just put it there. Okay, let's see, do you see that one? Not quite from there. How about this way? Okay, that seems to work. Okay, the camera is inside the engine. Alright, so I could rotate this one a little bit up, but that's how it goes. You try to insert the thickest possible gauge there, and I'm going to rotate the crankshaft just a little bit. There, to make sure it's not entirely top dead center, but it's good enough for a measurement. There, that one doesn't go in, and that was the 12,000th of an inch. It's just very hard to see it and read it. Next one will be, yeah, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, I'm just trying to save you some time. Here is the 11th thou. The 11th thou went under. There, it's already coming out on the other side. The 11,000 fits. Now from the other side, on this one, this is how it goes. I kind of have to have my hand along the cam here, my finger, and guiding this one down because I don't like bending the feeler gauge, and I'm trying to insert it there and trying to hold the camera at the same time. Yeah, the 11th thou just doesn't fit in there. So my next one is the 10. Just get me a sec. This is a really tricky camera shot. Here is the 10th thou. There you can barely see the number on it. Let's see how it works with the 10,000th of an inch. There, that went in neatly. It's about that tight. There, it's about that tight. That's how it looks. And just pull it out without breaking it. There. That's how the measurement goes. And I also have this little mirror so I can see that it's actually inserted properly and it's not going anywhere else where it shouldn't go. Alright, so that's how this one's done. Nobody's stripping bolts out of this cam cover, and no apprentice is screwing up here. If there's any screw up happening, it's only me, myself and I to blame.